Just as I was preparing to publish a video about Fred Wolk reached out, and not to complain, not to dodge, to simply clarify. Turns out he had been trying to contact me, in fact, multiple times. He even shared the email attempts, and wouldn't you know it, every time the replies were bouncing back to his web server. That's not on him, that's a tech fail, and honestly, I appreciate that he followed up anyway. So out of fairness and principle, I'm holding this episode until we've had a chance to talk. This platform has never been about gotchas or ambushes. If you're willing to speak, I'm willing to listen, and I mean that, even when the system didn't. So while we wait for that conversation to happen, now it's a perfect time to catch up on a Throwback Wednesday episode. It's an episode that even people to this day ask about. It's about the forensic contradictions, the unanswered questions, and an official timeline that doesn't just fall apart, it implodes. So let's get back into a previously posted video. Where was Brian for 67 days? Tentacle Nation, tonight we are revisiting the mysterious death of Brian Macron and the official story and narrative. What we do know is that he was missing for 67 days. But when you actually read the autopsy report, the evidence just doesn't add up. The signs we would expect from someone in the water for a long period of time just aren't there. And if he wasn't in the water that whole time, where was he? This is part of our continuing series on the Brian Macron case, where we are uncovering the facts that others have overlooked. Let's break it down. In case you haven't seen the other previous episodes, let's bring you up to speed a little bit. Brian Macron, a Lafayette Township trustee, was reported missing on December 16th, 2016. His body was discovered in Chippewa Lake on February 21st, 2017. The official ruling, cause of death undetermined. But when we examine the medical evidence, it raises serious questions about what really happened to him. So this episode, and I realize we've already looked at the autopsy, and that was my first video that I released in this series. I've learned a lot about this incident since I released that video. So this episode continues our investigation into the facts that challenge the official narrative. So keeping up with my style, I want to break it down 101 style for everybody out there so everybody can understand. Let's start with the claim that Brian was in Chippewa Lake the whole time. If that were true, we would expect some very specific forensic signs. So, advanced decomposition should be present, but it's not. The autopsy states his body was in early decomposition, with some green discoloration and skin slippage. But a body in water for 67 days, it should be severely bloated with extensive skin slippage and major tissue breakdown, which we don't see here. A body submerged that long should show extreme wrinkling and peeling. I believe the fancy term is called maceration. While some skin slippage was noted, it wasn't to the degree expected for someone in cold water for over 2 months. There also is no mention of adipocre, the waxy soap-like substance that forms on bodies in water over time. No signs of aquatic scavenging activity. Bodies in water attract fish, turtles, and insects, yet his remains show no evidence or bites or post-mortem predation. That's a huge red flag, suggesting he wasn't actually in the lake that long. Blood in his wounds, meaning he was alive when stabbed. His stab wounds showed hemorrhaging, meaning his heart was still pumping when they were inflicted. If he had been dead before entering the lake, the wounds wouldn't have bled like that. The tissues along the stab path were bloody and disruptive, and that's a quote from the autopsy report, further proving he was alive when attacked. The autopsy explicitly states the tissues along the stab path are bloody and disrupted. This means the injuries were sustained before death, as post-mortem wounds do not bleed. If he had been in the water for 67 days, the blood would have been washed away. yet hemorrhaging is still present, further suggesting he wasn't in the lake for that duration. The autopsy doesn't confirm drowning. If he had drowned, we'd expect water deep in the lungs, but there's no mention of that. That raises the question, did he even die in the water, or was he placed there later? And we can actually reference the interviews that were given to BCI later. There's no evidence of water being in his lungs. There was minutia of water in his lungs. If he had drowned, there would be a significant amount of water in his lungs. So if Brian wasn't in the lake the whole time, that leaves us with another big question. Could he have been on the shore and then carried into the water as the ice thawed? Some might argue that Brian was left on the shoreline and drifted into the lakes as the ice melted. A lot of people in this investigation involved believe that. But again, the evidence tells a different story, and I'm going to break it down for you here. If Brian was on shore, for weeks, scavengers would have fed on exposed soft tissues, his fingers, his nose, his lips, or his eyes. But the autopsy records report no bite marks, missing tissue, or animal disturbance, which is almost impossible if he was left out in the open. 2. A body left on shore would have collected dirt and debris from wind, rain, and melting snow. And yes, he had mud on his exterior part of his face, but I'm talking about other specific things that were noted in the autopsy. The autopsy states no mud or other foreign material debris is identified in the nostrils or mouth. And that strongly suggests he wasn't lying exposed on the ground for weeks. Number 3, if he had been on shore, he would have been exposed to multiple freeze-thaw cycles. This can cause cracking in tissues, frost damage, and discoloration. None of it which was noted in the autopsy. And that means his body was likely stored somewhere cold but controlled, not left exposed to winter conditions. Number 4, if he had been carried into the lake as the ice melted, his body should show scrapes, abrasions, or impact injuries from ice chunks. The autopsy doesn't mention any such injuries, suggesting he was placed in the lake more deliberately. If ice movement or dragging had occurred post-mortem, we would expect surface abrasions without hemorrhaging, but the autopsy does not describe these effects. The absence of these injuries suggests that he was not naturally carried into the lake, but rather intentionally placed there after death. So let's recap. The forensic evidence strongly suggests Brian wasn't in the lake for 67 days. He also wasn't on shore exposed to wildlife or elements. And that leaves one disturbing question. Where was he? If you have any information about Brian Macron's case, contact us at theinfamousexchief@gmail.com. No detail is too small. Someone out there knows the truth, and it's time to bring it to light.
Yeah, I mean, eyewitness reports are what they are, right? But it is interesting you have two people close to the same time describing the same person. Is that person involved? I don't know. But their story though, when you look at even what Forrest Thompson said, was that the jogger saw Brian. They're thinking that was Brian, and I feel pretty strongly. I mean, he doesn't know the weight of this guy. He's guessing, but he's 50 pounds off of Brian. As far as how Victoria describes him. I mean, he's decently off. I think he'd be better guessed than 50 pounds. If not, he could not work at Cedar Point as a weight guesser. But yeah, I don't think it's Brian.
Yeah.
I mean, you? I mean, how did he, he just, all of a sudden then put jeans on afterwards and got into the marsh and laid down? I mean, I just don't think it happened that way.
And like I said, I try to be objective. I try to look at it from both angles. And I know that we had a conversation, but I wanted to put this out. So when I say that it's leaning more toward the homicide, you have to understand from an actual investigation point of view, the way you're supposed to operate is any type of suspicious death or high-profile death or a missing person, high-profile missing person. And you're supposed to assume that it's a homicide until you can prove otherwise. And there's just nothing. I can't say nothing. is very minimal to prove that he did it himself. And because of that, because there's very minimal, it still should be being investigated. I mean, it still should be an open case, which I don't understand. But and it doesn't cost anything. I mean, it's not like it's, like I said, when I don't know why Forrest closed this out. There are rumors from two camps that Forrest closed it out. There's rumors that BCI wanted it done. I don't know which is which, and you're more than welcome to comment here in a second if you have insight on.
Well, and I can find it, but in one of Charlie Snyder's interviews, he says that he was feeling rushed by the prosecutor's office to come to a conclusion. So,
in the other camps, they make a valid point, and again, I'm not saying that it is. I have no evidence to support it, but the other camp is like, hey, this is right before his election. He wanted this wrapped up for his election, right? And I don't know that to be true or not. I've actually asked for an interview for him. From my understanding, he has granted interviews recently relative to this, but he has not responded to me whatsoever. So, and
I hope he does. I mean,
folks, I wanted to come in here and drop this in here again. This is one of these updates that have come along since I initially recorded this interview. So I had reached out to Forrest Thompson again relative to an interview. I was told by several parties that Forrest did grant them interviews, which is why I had reached out and asked. And this is back in January 27th. He responds back to me as stating, Mr. Gardner, thank you for reaching out to me. While I appreciate the work you are doing, I need to decline the request for interview. If you have a list of specific questions you would like to review, or like me to review, excuse me, I will do so. Thank you. Then he sent a subsequent email, same date, actually minutes apart. My apology. I also meant to address one of the issues you raised in your email. Specifically, my office had no role in the conclusions that were reached either by the sheriff's office or BCI. My only involvement was to initiate the request to have the investigation turned over to BCI in order to confirm an objective investigation of the facts. And I just wanted to make, again, I always tote about maintaining transparency. I wanted to be transparent that he had responded. He did indicate that he had nothing to do with the shutting down on the investigation. The only thing he asked for was an objective investigation, which never took place. But also slightly disturbing. Let me find it. So the interesting thing, again, is he had written me stating that he would take a look or a gander at specific questions I had asked him, which I actually, at the time, respected very much and was going to do so once I had received the material from his office from my public records request. However, they never even acknowledged my public records request after multiple attempts. Let me break it down for you here because I just filed this in the Ohio Court of Claims. So January 18th, plaintiff submitted a public records request via email to defendant seeking records related to the investigation of Brian Macron's disappearance and death. January 24th, plaintiff followed up with email to confirm receipt of the request. No response was received. February 4th, plaintiff sent a third email to both the records custodian, Mr. Bartow, and Medina County Prosecutor Forrest Thompson, noting that Ohio law requires a timely response and that continued silence would be considered as constructive denial. February 7th, plaintiff sent a fourth follow-up email, again requesting a response and warning that legal action would be taken if request remained unfulfilled. And February 9th, as of this date, defendant has failed to acknowledge, respond, or provide the requested materials. Folks, Ohio Attorney General has it very plainly on their website. 3 business days is what's considered adequate to respond. All you have to do is say, hey, I got your request. That's all I was asking for initially. I mean, obviously I want the records in a timely manner, but that's all I'm asking for initially. They couldn't even give me the courtesy of hitting reply on the email saying, okay, we got it. They could have stalled for a long time. Government agencies do this all the time. But Medina County is becoming very known This is now my second lawsuit with them. My first lawsuit, again, was for the autopsy, which is still unresolved for Christian Olsen. Mediation is actually supposed to be scheduled this week relative to it. It's just absurd to me. So, folks that are living in Medina County, you should be outraged at your prosecutor's office at this point, because the prosecutor is charged to enforce, or not enforce because that's actually law enforcement, but the prosecutor is charged to make certain that laws are upheld. And here you have a prosecutor's office who is breaking the law multiple times. I just had to drop this in. Thanks.
To be honest with you, I had no idea that it would become what it did when we did our podcast. I would have never, when we first started, I thought we were going to do like a 1-2 episodes, throw some speculation out there, summarize the news articles and be done with it kind of thing. And then we just, hit Victoria, and then it gained a lot of traction. By no means did we ever intend to push Forrest or anything like that. And I don't know if we did or didn't. But he did act on it, and he didn't act on it for 3 years, during our podcast. So I don't know. Hopefully, I feel bad if it affected something in a way that wasn't supposed to. But hey, it is what it is. It did move the case. Positive or negative, I don't know, but.
So we're trying, folks. We're still trying to get buzz, and I have gotten a ton of responses. I was actually just talking to my family the other day. I probably, each day have been getting literally, and when I say hundreds of messages, it's dialogue going back and forth with people. But I mean, I'm literally, there's hundreds of messages going back and forth. This case very much is still in the foresight of the residents of Medina County, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, that's just the Macron family," and there's a lot of people that are talking to me that have nothing to do with Brian Macron. They grew up in Chippewa Lake. They lived in Chippewa Lake during the time. There's a lot of people that do not believe that he did this himself. A lot of people believe that it's a cover-up, and I have no evidence at this point that supports that. Either I honestly think it was just a very lazy style of investigation that was conducted, and they didn't really think, for the longest time, again, they thought he was in California for some reason, and I don't think that they're really investigated because of it. But the point is, we're trying to create buzz, so please make certain that you drop questions. And I don't, do you have I know you have a YouTube channel. It looks, and I wanted to ask you about that before you leave, about getting the band back together possibly. But do you have a YouTube account so people post their questions or comments? Or are you able to see?
I don't think so. I think we've gone very dormant here. We were so I was trying to get the quote unquote band back together a little bit for the Christian Olsen case, which if I could put a plug in about that, I would love to. That's an active case that needs justice, and it needs justice. It can't sit like this for this long. They got to move on it. We got to keep them honest about it. We also got to keep information going. We got to put pressure on the people that are responsible. That as a society, as a Medina County resident, we can't stand for this. So a big push. So that's what. So we were talking about getting the band back together a little bit. You see how much time you got to spend on this stuff. This isn't like a 5-minute job. You spend a ton of time thinking about what you want to say, researching everything. You don't want to say anything that's wrong. So yeah, it's a lot. Macron, we just kind of all like buckled down and it just grew, and it was exciting, and there was new stuff all the time. And, but yeah, so if you got information, you should be going to his channel and posting it, or to the family, to, the Justice for Brian Macron page. And like you said, is it just the Macrons and family and stuff in their camp on their Facebook page? No, because there's other pages that are other people, and they're trying to tell another story. And I'm not saying either story is correct, because honestly, I spent so much time, and I keep up to date with everything that I can on it. and I still don't know what happened. I couldn't tell you with 100% certainty that he did or didn't act alone. I truly don't. I don't know. I wish I did, and I think as a community we all want answers. We all have opinions on it, but there's not enough information that says. I mean, like we still, if he did it, then how did he die, right? We don't have we have an undetermined autopsy. If he left when he left his house, why? Why did he leave his house? Did he leave it to do this big thing? Another train of thought of why he switched places was when that vehicle pulled in, he was in the process of ending his own life, and saw the lights and decided to move. I'm not saying that's not. I don't think that's what happened personally, but it's an idea, and something like I think everything. It's the answers is what I think we wanted the community, and the idea that it's just undetermined, and we're just gonna is what it is. We're never gonna find out. I think there's enough information out there. We should be able to figure this out.
And there is, and this is my fault, so I wanted to make certain this came up, and I completely forgot about it up to the point. There's a theory that one of the reasons he did this to himself was because of finances, and I see it all the time on, and I'm like going all over the place, and I apologize. There's you have these two different camps of Facebook pages, like you were talking about. One that thinks that Macron did it himself, others that don't, and they fight vehemently against each other, and sometimes rightfully so. But the camp that thinks he did it himself keep bringing up the finances, and that was one of the main questions or things that I had requested from the Medina County prosecutor's office, was because even Forrest, I think, stated it in his press conference or somewhere I read it about the finances, but where is it in the documentation and the investigation? I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing, yes, he was getting collection calls. I think Brian even had subsequent conversations with people that because of him switching jobs, that there was like a lull with finances. But people supposedly offered him cash money. Somebody supposedly, by their own statement, offered him $20,000 to get through Christmas, and Brian declined. He said, "No, my things are picking up for me on the jewelry side. December is my busy. Christmas is my busy time. I'm just a little behind, but I'm going to catch up," because a lot of people were saying there were some collection calls. I think there's some collection calls on his phone records, but there's really nothing, and I'm hoping you can tell me one or the other. I can't see anything in the investigation that points to where somebody would want to kill themselves over the finances that he had. At least there's nothing in the investigation where he was like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I don't see it. Yeah. Did you see anything?
So he had this joint credit card, which I mean, I don't know if it's really joint, but his brother was a signer on the card too, but I believe it was more of a business card that had $50,000 on it. So there was 50,000. It was more of a business kind of line of credit thing, from my understanding. Brian, his taxes are in there. He in that year made $95,000. And in 2016, that's a pretty decent pay. They didn't live in a big lavish house. So, I mean, I do believe they had, from what I heard in interviews, that they might have had 2 car payments with that. They were putting a kid into college, but that's get pricey. And I believe Victoria went back to work. I think within that year, she started back to work. I mean, they were, if they were in these financial things, we're not talking anything that's astronomical here. And we're talking about that they're making adjustments to handle like any normal person would. Now his buying and returning is an interesting piece of this, where he would, I think it's the same credit card. He would buy and return, like even within the same day. So, we had, during our podcast, we had a, person call up and say, we called this guy the Dyson guy. Or he would go buy 3 Dyson vacuums and then return them. Or he would go, and this is the Target in Medina, which is fairly close to his house. So the one time, he went back there, he bought 2 iPads for $1,100. comes in the back of the store, goes to the front of the store before he even leaves and returns them and then walks out. He would do that out of town. He would buy like random large pieces of items and have them shipped to a address and then call and return it. And have them put it on that card. You can see it on it. It's all in the file, but you can see it. They followed up on it, thinking like, is he trying to get like some sort of a scam on getting extra points with his credit card? But it's a 90-day look back before they issue points. So what you per that credit card, it was an American Express, and I also believe that an American Express card was never recovered. It was not in his wallet when. So that's the weird part of it. It's a credit card with this weird spending. With the actual physical card was not there. So weird.
I did actually have, and I do know that the police did actually talk to a representative from American Express, and they expressed the fact that the points weren't allocated or something. But I don't honestly think that's true. I have an American Express card, and again, I don't know. Maybe it's different for each specific American Express card. Maybe during 2016 it was completely different. But I get points at the end of the day. So I don't know. And I think there was an interview at some point, and I didn't really understand the purpose of the interview, but I think it was like some convenience store, I think up towards Cleveland, said that Brian came in and made some sort of reference to all snap, they got my points or something. I do you recall that, or?
I don't know.
There was some interview. Some guy calls in, and I don't know exactly the purpose of why he. So maybe he just felt the need to report, hey, Brian was in here and I saw him before he died, which is fine. But there wasn't like anything substantial in his interview. But he did state that Brian supposedly went to go buy something and said, oh, snap, they got my points. So I think it does catch up eventually, but I think, at least with my card, my experience, you get the points immediately and you can use them immediately. And then I think they do audit at some point, okay, well, you returned here, so we're taking these points, whatever. But yeah, that's still not definitive. And that's still a very good question why that was occurring.
I mean, that makes the most sense. It's either that or you want a paper copy of something. So is he able to like write off for his business certain amount of stuff? Because he was like was it a 1099? He's not like he was self-employed basically with his company.
And hang on, I want to. While we're on this topic, I have to find it because this is the interview with Deputy Cartwright, and again, what I find very interesting is, and I know that I've mentioned it to you. I looked up Deputy Cartwright in the state database. You can now, Attorney General's office, you can look up any officer and what type of training that officer has received, if the officer is still valid or whatever. And I looked up Deputy Cartwright, and the guy had like one formal training on crime scene, I think in 1991. It was like a 1 or 2 week course. And that was like literally the training he had relative to homicides. And again, it just boggles my mind. I sit there and wonder, I'm like, why? Like Medina County, in my opinion, not Daryl's opinion, necessarily my opinion, Medina County is just making all these weird, rash choices on this investigation. You have a high-profile Lafayette Township trustee that's missing initially for months. You don't know where he is or what happened to him. And you assign some guy that has no training or experience on this type of case. And it's just mind-boggling. But if you look at his interview with ETI agent Snyder, he talks about this, and this is where I'm coming back into the credit card thing. He talks about the fact that he didn't understand what he was doing with the credit card thing. So he asked, somebody, well, they weren't like a psychologist. This is his word. And they weren't really like a psychologist necessarily. They're more like a therapist. And I asked, hey, why would somebody do this? And to me, it was just, again, it was like I'm literally listening to Barney Fife Yes. Who goes out and asks a therapist? Is it documented? Did this interview with this therapist, was it documented? So, I mean, do you just pick somebody randomly? Oh, I'm just going to go through the Medina phone book. Okay, hey, I'm going to ask this therapist. I mean, it's just ludicrous to me. It makes no, I don't understand it. But
It's like the phone a friend, you know?
so, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe in post production, I'll be able to find his interview and put it up, and figure it out. But the main important thing, and I think people think that when I say this, I'm trying to, oh, hey, he just wants clicks. Yeah, I do want clicks. It's not because I'm making much money off this. All right, I basically make enough money to cover the cost of what's the show. And I'm fine with that. I'm not looking to be a billionaire on my YouTube channel. I do this because I'm impassioned. Daryl, I think you're impassioned. I think your band, the Blues Brothers band, the Invisible Shift is impassioned. But the more you click, the more you comment, the more the algorithms, gods of YouTube recognize and push this out further. And what I really want, I want a large response for the Macron family, because regardless of what happened, whether he did it himself or whether somebody killed Brian, they deserve to know the truth, and they're not getting it right now. So whatever happened, if you click, subscribe, if you comment, specifically if you comment, even if you don't do anything else, hit like and leave some comments. What do you think happened to Brian? Whatever you want to comment on the show. You have a question for me, you have a question for Darren, leave a comment, and it pushes it out. So, anything else you can think of at this point, or?
It's up to you. We can, so we can cover the other theories if you want, or, of like what happened, or you can look it up, or I don't know what you want to do.
No, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So the other things that I had kind of jotted down some stuff for, so we've got this angry resident idea. The other thing that like a lot of people kind of look at. So during the townships that time, there was multiple things going on. There was a fire levy, and that's where the angry resident kind of came from. Supposedly, he was mad about the fire levy. But then also there was the Nexus pipeline, which was gonna go through, and it made a lot of residents upset. Weirdly enough, and then there's like this innovation park, which was supposed to be this like tech spot in Medina County that Lafayette Township was trying to push, that's controlled by the Medina Port Authority, which is a conglomerate of like businesses and business, I think more like business owners, like sit on the boards. Well, they had control of Innovation Park. They also have control of your local. They did the like lit fiber throughout the county. So they try to like keep the county to be able to pull in businesses and such. There's the phone.
Sorry, I finally found it. It's 20 minutes
Angry
late.
resident meeting. There it is.
Yes.
So weird. Like, not, hey, I'm going to meet Jim, right?
And it also ties in because the phone is on this contract, which I think is one of the things you're talking about right now. This contract, right? Doesn't this have something to do with the pipeline, I believe, or I can't remember.
I know it's like a weird contract where it's got like it's got so much amount of money, but it's got like a C in it and stuff. It's been talked about. I just have a hard time believing that Brian was going in there trying to send us like these crazy clues.
I don't think that either. I don't think that either. That's not why I brought it up. I just brought it up because the contract is there, and I know that's one of the, not necessarily because of his, and there are people that have dissected far more than I could dissect these photos. But I just find it interesting because I think this is, I don't think this is the pipeline. I can't remember this contract. I think it has to do with some sort of like cash loan or something. I can't remember what it is.
Like that. Yeah, it's something with like a large sum of money, but it's like I don't know. It needed signed, but I don't even know if it said Brian had to sign it. I don't know who had to sign it.
Yeah, I think there are other photos, but they're not real clear on what the contract is.
So the other so pipeline wise, so the pipeline made a lot of residents upset because they didn't want their yards getting tore up and having this big pipeline with like a huge fallout area that if something were to ignite the gas, that they would be basically incinerated. So residents did not like this idea of the pipeline, except for like some people really made a good amount of money off of it. Like there's a pumping station. It's not in Lafayette Township. I think it's in Guilford Township. But I have no record of like, you can look at like the land sale, which sold at like market value. But I don't know why you would ever want to sell your land to get a pumping station unless you're getting something outside of it. But that's my thoughts, not anything I have information of. But so the Nexus pipeline was literally like, so the fire levee went through, and the Nexus pipeline goes through where the fire station is at Innovation Park, which the land was donated from the Medina Port Authority in exchange to change the this is all in the meeting minute for Lafayette Township, but they changed the zoning regulations so they could allow a little more options for businesses to come in there. But Innovation Park really hasn't, like, some people have made different conspiracies on Innovation Park and people making big money off of it. I mean, there's nothing there really still. So there's a fire department, fire station there, and there's the Akron University campus there. I think it's still there. And then I think they put some like redwoods in. I don't know if that's technically part of Innovation Park or not, but there's redwoods back in that way. So I don't know if they gave some money or offered it for like housing too, because it's just not really moving. But the pipeline.
I have been told that like Silverleaf School greatly benefited from the pipeline also.
Correct. Yeah, the pumping station gave a lot of, I think, really changed the value. It's basically built their high school. So I mean, they made, I don't know what the actual money was. It was going to be like a lot of money, and then they tried to like change the amount they wanted to pay and went to court. But I think they still like ruled in favor, saying no, it's what you said you were going to do. So yeah, the school district I know got money enough to build a school. So I mean, pretty good money. Well, look at you.
Now, 116 million to local school districts supposedly.
Right.
And there were, and I'm not going to specifically single the person out, but there's somebody that's, I mean, I don't really care. They're a public figure. And that's the other thing is there's some banter. Apparently some of the people involved in this, ex-trustees from the Lafayette Township, apparently they were sending out what they call slapped lawsuit letters. Did you guys actually get one of those, or?
So, as far as I know, this is my claim to fame on this. I'm the only one that got two.
You got sued?
No, I got two. I didn't get sued. I got two of those letters.
Oh, you got two of the slap letters.
Yeah,
okay,
one for the podcast and one individually. So
yeah, so
I'm not their favorite, and I honestly, like Linda and Mike, if you guys are listening to this, I had no intentions of hurting anybody. Like that's not my spot. So I do apologize if I hurt your feelings on this. I still would love to hear your side of things. I've listened to the interviews you guys have given. So.
And I find it extremely interesting because, these are public figures, and under slander and libel, they're held at much higher standard. You would essentially have to prove malice, that I knew, or that I lied, and two, I knew what I did was a lie, and three, I knew that it would be harmful in some way to the person. So I find that the letters sort of humorous to me. You're a public official. I'm a public official. My background causes me to this day. My name is still in the newspapers. It is what it is. You're a public official. People are going to talk about you, and there's not anything you can do. And like you said, I have actually reached out. I shared with you my email that I have sent out because I do. I want to objectively listen to what everybody has to say about this. And, that ex-trustee, I think actually is imperative to speak to it. And I don't think that they've made any, I've been told that they have not made any public appearances relative to that. Is that as far as you know, correct?
Well, so after we launched our podcast, and the two other trustees eventually came out with their page, which they've since taken down. And it was they basically really tried to reaffirm that three different investigative investigations were performed, and that they came back with the same thing, that this is what happened, that Brian basically, I think inadvertently kind of lost. He was the only one involved in his own death, and they basically tried to make those claims. They did that, but they did kind of like backhandedly try to, I think, go after Victoria. I guess like maybe this is how like the Hatfield McCoys began. It's like something like this when we just start dividing more. I don't know, but like it's I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be on either side. I just want the answer.
And it's why I look at it. I am trying to remain objective, right? And that's why I would like to hear from the people. Like I said, I emailed Forrest. I'm happy to hear his side. I even emailed, the coroner, Lisa Derenick. I'd like to hear her side. Maybe she could tell me I'm full of crap. Maybe my analysis is all wrong. I welcome it. If you feel what I was saying, if you feel that you weren't contradicting, then show me how you weren't contradicting. Come on, let me know. And the same thing with the ex-trustees. I would like to hear from you. I have no skin in this game. I don't know the Macron family. I don't know, I don't know anybody really involved except for one firefighter, which I previously mentioned. We went to high school together. Other than that, I don't think I know anybody else in this. Terry Grace, I do know Terry Grace, who's the current sheriff for Medina County. He was not sheriff at that point. He was police chief of Montville, I believe, at this point. I have no skin in the game, so I just want the truth. I want the Macron family to be able to know what happened to Brian. Whatever it was. It could be the most disgusting, vile thing in the world, but they deserve to know what happened. They deserve to know the truth. Or was he murdered? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I hope we get it with your stuff here.
Did pretty much all the theories?
So then we have these cameras which were purchased. So there was two covert cameras. I have the paperwork for that. Did I send you the paperwork for that yet? I don't think I did.
I have it from someone. I can't remember who gave it to me, honestly, but I have it from somewhere.
There was two, and they on the invoice, as I'll quote, covert exit cameras. They were purchased for $2,595. I do not believe this was ever brought up to the residents, and certainly not to the firefighters. They were purchased, like I said, on December 8th. They were installed on December 12th, and that cost an additional $1,100. And then they were discovered much later with the firefighters. Whenever I think that the story I was told was they were cleaning the fire, and they were reaching up and actually knocked the sign off of the exit sign. And they're like, "Oh, who has this sneaky camera in there?" So there's these cameras right around his, a week before all of this happened. And then there was also a thought that Brian was going through the record at Lafayette Township. In one of the photos, you can see where a box in the back, they took a picture of the record room, and on the back, there's a tote with a lid up and tipped to the side. It looked kind of misplaced in there. So, was he going through the records? Was that what Brian was doing that night? Some people speculate that he might have been trying to uncover something. That's all I got. So, as far as that goes, was he? I don't know. There weren't papers everywhere. There was, I believe, no blood found in there, I don't know. So, could have been, might not have been. There's a lot of easy explanations for that don't correlate to Brian losing his life, So.
And one of the things, and I think and you have to apologize because I've been talking to so many people. I don't know who I've asked at this point. I need to actually start documenting anything myself, I think. But were there any ties to Brian and Chippewa Lake?
I don't know. You know, like, when you weight it down, you mean?
Like I'm trying to figure out.
What would make him go to Chippewa Lake?
Yes.
I did not know of any like specific tie. I mean, I think he was involved in one of the polar plunges, I believe. But I mean, like,
yeah, that's on the screen now. There, I think Brad Winters is asking about the polar bear plunge. Apparently, him and Victoria went to. But I mean, there's no like friends, family necessarily. I was told that he would only go there like essentially when invited. As that said, Chippewa really wasn't anything significant to him or anything of that nature.
No, I mean, he grew up in North Royalton, so I mean, like, he wasn't like raised at Chippewa Lake, or I didn't know of any family that he had that ever lived at Chippewa Lake. So I mean, like, I don't think it was like a familiar place to him, like, like if you're trying to like do something,
Oh. So is that pretty much all the major conspiracy / theories, or?
I think so, yeah. So I think like recapping like, what got Brian out of bed, right? Because like originally we thought we had a Facebook message at 2:08. That is not true. So that came from Paul before we got the record. There was a Facebook thing around 2:10, and it was just like it says Facebook post Mars special. It's like a meme looking thing that just came through. It wasn't posted by him, and it wasn't his activity. So that didn't get him out of bed like we originally said in our first podcast. That information has been different. And then the GPS ping, I think, is very significant. There's a big gap in between there. So we do have this time where could he have gone and picked somebody up and brought him back there for whatever reason? Could he have met somebody prior to? What would make you drive? I mean, easily, what would you say, about 10 minutes out of your way to get to the other side of the lake like that?
Yeah.
Why would you just get up and go for a drive before you stop at the town hall? Some people speculate he went and got food at like McDonald's or something. That phone pin doesn't put him in McDonald's, so I mean, he would have been traveling back. And if he'd have been traveling back, wouldn't you have gone down Lake Road rather than coming all the way around to Kennard and Westfield? Maybe not. Maybe that's where I already went. But the stomach content, I don't think really Matt. McDonald's, I think it more coincides with what he had at Lincoln Lizard, from my understanding. But there's thoughts of that he went down towards the truck stop. I don't know. That could have been. I don't know. Is McDonald's even open at 2 a.m?
Back then, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's not
That's
the
a good
best
question.
off the top of my head here now. It was really so that ping to me is the one that makes me keep going back. What would he have? It's very residential in in that 2,500 meter circumference.
Well, the other, when you were talking about the administration building, so I think this is like, I don't know if this is Google, I don't know what I'm on Google here. So the administration building is just like stray buildings here. Somebody was saying, and when I was back there, I do have some D-roll that I got, some video that I put back there. There's like a ditch or something back like behind. But somebody said that was there a road, that was back there, or some sort of dirt road behind the administration building?
So I don't think it's part of the township, but back close to where that big black culvert pipe is back there, there's a gravel drive that goes in that would put you maybe like 150 feet from the back of the building.
Okay. Because I was just trying to determine whether or not, and who knows? I don't even remember when the video from this, so that they're relying on this video from Lafayette Market. Apparently, this owner was getting broken into all the time, or something of that nature, and so he installed some at that time with pretty high tech camera equipment. But it's very blurry, like where the actual drive is to the township hall. and you're pretty much just relying on seeing lights. And again, somebody said that is this the video that was supposedly enhanced, or
I just thought what I gave you is what I have. So I mean, we had a guy, but I mean, like he was not a video expert, but so like when you're podcasting, you just it's not like I got a wealth of resources, but I had it. He was able to like lighten it up a little bit. He had a lot to do with he was like a manager of a restaurant, and he messed around with a lot with the security system over there, so. That's where he had his knowledge from, but he was able to kind of lighten it up for us to kind of see. But you still can't. You definitely can't tell who's in the vehicle. That's for sure. You can't. I don't even think you can make out that it's for sure Brian's car.
And who knows? What do you remember? What time the video started? Like. Could someone have already been into the township Paul at that point, or dropped off?
Yeah. I mean, somebody could have already been there. I'd have to go back and look at those. There's a camera. Do they have them on the title of their thing? Their audio.
What?
Do they on the? Yeah, I'm not making sense, am I? Is it titled on the files I sent you? The timing.
Or is it on it? Hang on, I should have looked at the timeline here. I don't know if it's going to tell me specifically, but.
So, like, as far as the videos on the timeline, I mean, it basically kind of starts close to when he pulls in. But, I mean, could somebody have been there at 11 o'clock and waiting for him? Could have been. They could have pulled in that other driveway and sat there and waited for him if they knew he was coming.
It was on camera 19, correct? Or is that?
I think so.
I don't know if I can pull it up from here or not. All right, so this is, so just so everybody understands, I think this is it, right? This is the angle.
Yeah.
So I don't know if everybody can see, I think the road or the Township Administration building is like over here in this dark spot, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And so I don't even know what this, I don't know if these are like street lights, I don't even know what those are, but as you can see, and I don't know if I can find the actual event or not, but as you can see, the video is not real superb. I'm trying to see, did it have a time on there?
Of when he went in?
On the timeline on the video.
The video, I didn't see it on the. Let me look here on this guy.
So this looks like a vehicle pulling up, coming up to this. It's like it passed the administration building, I'm assuming. But as you guys can see, this video, while high-tech back then is not real great. This is what they're relying on, whether or not people came or went to this House of Paul. And now this is like a question that I really have to come back to. How much video do they actually have? What did they pull?
Right. I mean,
usually in a case like this, you would pull you always pull more video than you need. So like a case like this for me, I would have pulled as much as he had. So if he had 3 or 5 days previous, I would have pulled everything. I don't know. I don't think it's stated anywhere now that I think about it.
No, well, it would be nice to see like the arrival of the people, when they arrived to find the scene.
Right.
Just to give more clarity, because that's another part is, 911 was never called, and I get why you called Jim, but even at that, there's still a time lapse between the phone calls of Mike and Jim. So why, like a close, like don't quote me on it, but I mean it's closer to like a half hour before like Jim there, like to the point where so Mike, who supposedly did not know any of this happened, gets a phone call and is down there before Jim. And Jim's en route. So when Jim knows, he immediately turns around and is there. So there's a little bit of a window there. Coach, like I said, it's more than 15 minutes, I think less than a half hour in between those phone calls.
And I know a lot of people have commented on that. I mean, should he have called 911? Probably. I don't think it's the end of the world if you have like an actual liaison police officer that you're used to. I mean, I used to get calls on my personal phone all the time. But I would always, the odd thing is that I don't think that I can't remember now that I'm trying to think about the radio traffic. Did Jim actually ever announce, hey, I received a call on the radio?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he had to have called it because I believe Jim then called it in to like bring in the cavalry of everybody looking at it, and But I mean, I don't. Is that answer your question or?
Well, yeah. I was curious because generally what would happen is, hey, I get a call in my zone by one of the business owners that I know. I would get on the radio and be like, hey, be advised, I received a call from this business. This is what's going on, on the route or whatever. I don't know if that ever occurred or happened, but
I don't know because we don't have all the information. We don't have all this stuff from them. From the. I mean, I would think so. I wouldn't think he wouldn't. I mean, he was with another guy. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just him by himself.
Where does this car go? I mean, this is totally random, by the way. I just pulled him. I was just clicking. I was just clicking through the videos. So look at this with me here, Darren. This car turns right onto the road. You see the tail light and the turn signal. Where did it go? It like disappears. Like after right here, it never popped out. Where'd it go?
I don't know.
Is it that car? Did it make a U-turn? I'm confused. What just happened? You see, that's my point. This video is garbage to make any type of actual criminal analyzation. I mean, it's a tool. Hey, we can somewhat see what's going on, but this is not being able to definitively show.
But when you hear Sentner's in June, his press conference, it sounds like they got it all, right? We know when he came in, we know when he left. I mean, we don't even know for sure if he was ever there, right?
Right.
I mean, if you had like a cup of blood and a towel, couldn't you have kind of recreated that scene?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's unlikely, but I mean, really, truly though, like
you're absolutely right. And that might quantify all of their hypothesis. Well, there wasn't much blood, even though I think they're looking at the photos. I think there is a decent amount of blood, and people are theorizing. Well, it was a limited amount of blood that was spread all over the place, which is possible. I don't know. I'm not a blood pattern expert, which I think they actually did consult with BCI, a blood pattern expert. I'm not a blood pattern expert, but I've seen all sorts of weird scenes that. I think one thing happened and boom, it's proven another way. But that's an excellent point. Yeah. It wasn't even there. Did somebody else just like pour a bunch of blood on the floor that they had from him?
I don't know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, that's the hard part. There's so many theories in here of like different things, but there are people that are pretty caught up to speed on this case that do feel like he was never there. I think that's hard. I mean, to figure out, but I mean, that would have to go to he was overtaken over somewhere on the other side of the lake with whatever he went to go see, which has no record online of a phone call or text. So I mean, like then it goes back to did he see something at the township, the meeting that he had the night before that made a rendezvous. I don't know. kind of good.
I'm sorry. I still can't find the video where he
pulls in.
Pulls in. So if anybody knows, because there's a lot of people that know a lot more than I do, honestly. So if anybody knows, drop it in the comment. How much video do they actually have of this Lafayette market? When does this start? Their review timeline. When did it start of Lafayette administration building? I don't know.
You mean as far as like when they got the footage, like if they got a car going in at 8 o'clock that night before, you mean?
Well,
like
yeah, how much video did they actually pull? Did they pull from, I don't know, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m.? Did they pull from, I don't think it's documented anywhere that I've seen, like the actual, generally you would go and make a report and say, hey, I went to the Lafayette market and he has, whatever, he had 3 days worth of footage from, December 13th to December 16th. And I downloaded the footage from December 16th or December 13th from 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. December 16th, and it's noted in your report. And I don't see any documentation stating what they actually pulled. So the videos, I guess my question: how much video do we actually have? You know?
I mean, that's all I have is what I gave you. But I don't know what like they had,
But do you even know like what times these are from?
It starts just before he pulls in. So
okay,
like 1-ish in the morning might be your earliest video. I'd have to go back and look. And it's definitely before, like in his leaving video. It's not much after that. It's pretty close to the first and last, and then the in betweens. But they're all intermittent videos. It's not like it's a continuous feed. And it has to, and that's the other part of it, is it's not a guarantee that camera would turn on and record from, unless the car, if you look, most of those videos are all cars passing by on 42, not 162, which is where the drive is.
Yeah, these are, I'm assuming this is a camera that's activity driven, meaning that it's either by motion or by infrared that it triggers the recording. It doesn't appear to actually be like recording continuously. It's only recording when there are events. So but who's to say whether or not it's actually going to pick up cars down at the administration building?
Right.
That's actually an awesome point. So
yeah.
Who even knows whether or not this was triggered the vehicle going to the administration building? So how can you make a hypothesis stating that only 2 vehicles went in there? You don't know.
You don't. There's a lot of other options that could happen. You just don't know. Then there's also the minute mark. So I don't think we've talked about it, but we had during our podcast a lady that worked there come forward. I don't think we put her on the show. She was scared to talk a lot about it. But she was a worker at the minute mark. Now, there was 2 cars, and there is I don't have videos of it, but it is in the files I sent you. I'm
trying to, I thought I actually might have it. I was trying to find it.
If you look at that, it's got like 2 cars pulled in, and I think it's underneath.
Mini Mart video. I should have this up so you can see what I'm looking at here. Mini Mart video. And some of it's sort of aggravating for me because I have a Mac, and some of these videos are not conducive to the Mac apparently.
So this is not a video; it's just a report.
Well, this is I think this is supposed to be the actual video of the mini mart, I think. It's labeled mini mart video. Do you have that, or?
Oh, if I do, can you play it or no?
I don't know if I've compiled it from like multiple people, so I don't know who gave it to me.
I think you might have more than I do now. I mean, you probably do. You do have more than I do because I gave you everything I had.
It appears.
No, I don't think I do.
I can't get into it. It appears that you have to like actually install one of these files, I think, is an exe file. I think you have to like install something for this to work. And I don't have the ability because it's on a Mac. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mini Mart.
So you haven't seen the so. And I forget what time it was. It'd be nice if I could find here. Wait, here we go. There's a report of it. Yeah.
Is it here? Or?
I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. Does it say? I mean, look, I got it on my screen too. Here. Does it say what time it saw those cars? Okay, yeah, 4:15. So the original thought was that somebody told, but it doesn't appear to be Brian's car. But there's these people. But I mean, we have every right to be out at 4:15 on us. But there's these two cars that pull in. One, the silver car is the one that's interesting because this lady remembers the silver car, and then she said she saw the same silver car, I believe like 10 days later, stopped with its hazards on Chippewa Road on the bridge.
And just so the audience understands, because not everybody is from Chippewa Lake, like I am. This mini mart is actually in Chippewa Lake, so this is like a couple miles from the administration building. This is very close to where Brian's vehicle was found on beachside. So this is like on one of the main roads in Chippewa Lake. Just gives orientation to everybody that's watching.
So she speculated that same silver car was because so a lot of people feel like if you feel like it's Brian didn't act alone, they feel like he wasn't there that day and he was placed somewhere else and then later put back into the lake. And the easiest spot to probably put him would be off of Chippewa Road. There's a bridge there to the inlet, and that would give reason that Brian would have then flowed into the lake where he was found. So I think that's overall. I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody, but that does seem to be kind of like the consensus of what people think as far as that he was late, as far as like locals feel like he was put in later because it doesn't match like where he probably would have walked. But I mean, I'm sure some people feel the other way too. But so with that, this lady says that she believes that silver car in the top photo was also seen, but there's no license plate match at the bridge. So her story is that she feels like that car was part of it. Now, the footage that I saw does not match the second car at the town hall that we have that pulls in partway. It's a much bigger vehicle from what we were able to enhance. It's more like a truck with a cap on it or a full-size SUV. Is what it looked like from the camera footage pulling into the town hall.
And there was also some sort of speculation, and I don't know if it was from her where it came up, or it's relative to this truck or a red truck. Do you remember something about a red truck coming up?
Yeah, around Chippewa Lake, right? They were looking for a red truck. I never heard why they got away from this red truck. I think it came up in one of the cameras from like resident. Now, and then I do realize. So supposedly that's somebody that was going to work. I think is what they figured out later. Did we see that?
I'm sorry, what was it?
I thought that they were able to get around that red truck with that it was somebody that was going to work.
I think they did, or I think they did. But I was trying to find it. I can't. There was actually a picture of somebody and his driver's license, which it was sort of odd because I think he wasn't local. I can't remember where he was from. They had somehow done a traffic stop. I think maybe Sutner was down there for some reason on a follow-up and did a traffic stop on this guy. But I can't remember honestly. And I'm sort of like all over the place at the point because I can't remember why they were looking for the Fred truck to begin with. So
I think it came up on a camera from in Chippewa Lake, but I did not see that camera. But I remember hearing it in, I think, an interview.
and that's the other thing. I keep wanting to get footage, and nobody seems to have it. I'll see side. I want that footage. If anybody's got that footage, because again, were they watching only for Brian's car? Did other cars pass? I mean, it's all critical information not noted in the report. How they were observing, the review of the camera. Only that Brian's car passed. I think at a certain time. I don't know what it was. 6:33 a.m. and then returned at 6:36 a.m. He was traveling north and then came back south. But it doesn't indicate if there were other vehicles in the area, other people, pedestrians. Again, I don't know what kind of camera it was. I don't know if it was recording continuously. But, if anybody has that footage, I think it's critical.
You would think you would get it from your record request, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I just, everything. I actually just emailed them on Friday. Yesterday, we're recording this on Saturday. I sent them a little reminder saying, "Hey, haven't heard anything back." I mean, generally you at least get a response stating that they received the record request. And again, there might be some tension between myself and Medina County because I'm currently involved in Ohio Court of Claims, pleading with them for the Christian Olsen homicide autopsy reports that they still haven't given me. So I'm probably not their favorite person right now.
So why don't they really? Because they did that with Brian. What was it? Channel 3 News had to take him to court to get the autopsy. And
what's frustrating is there are records, there are exemptions to records. But an autopsy report is considered an administrative report, and it's considered public record. There's no feel good language in the Ohio Revised Code to it that allows them to withhold it. So it's frustrating to me because, in my opinion, they're violating the public records law. The ORC says release it. It's an administrative record. You can't withhold it. And I don't even understand why you would want to withhold an autopsy report. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, because it seems like they have this theory of let's kind of keep things hush hush, so whoever is responsible can relax, and then we'll catch them quick. But that works well, doesn't it?
But that was the most horrible advice that I have ever heard. I actually felt bad and had to somewhat apologize to the family. I didn't believe them. I'm like, there's no way that somebody would tell you not to talk to the media or to use, that he overdosed as the narrative. I'm like, there's no way that anybody told you that. And it turned out they were able to provide me with audio where Forrest Thompson is in the meeting, and I don't think he was the one that was telling them that, but he's sitting in the meeting while they're being told that, and it was just, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that.
But I mean, we're Medina County. We're, as far as this county's I think fairly decently resourced. We should be better than that.
I agree, and how you do not have, and somebody had said. I asked the question, does Medina County not have homicide detective? And I was told that I can't remember if it was Tom Miller supposedly made this comment or if it was Terry Grice. Well, why would we need it? What do you mean?
Well, if you do need it, then you ought to be.
Why would you need to train somebody to be a homicide detective? I mean, you're going to have a homicide, or you're going to have cases that you need at least to investigate as a homicide, and that kind of rationale sort of scary. Whoever made that comment, if it was made, I don't know, but
yeah.
So, and you sort of touched on it. So, are there hopes of bringing the band back? I saw you cover. And I don't even know what it is. I haven't even gotten to it yet. The Centerville letters and
yeah. That's kind of when I started losing my drive, because these documents were like 800 pages, and it's like, let's try to get through this in the next week. And I mean, I got a family and kids, and everything, and it's like the case, like, and it was old, so and so I just lost steam and kind of bowed. I wasn't one of the original band members, so this was my two brother-in-laws that started this. If you go back, you'll hear them first. I jumped in on Macron because I told them, like, hey guys, you're getting good, you got to do Macron, and they're like, yeah, maybe, and I'm like, no, you really should do Macron. And he's like, well, if we do it, why don't you do it? And I said, well, I think I will. And so I jumped in, and it was fun. It was a cool ride. It's a really a highlight, like, to be a part of it. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, I have no skill here in this, I just read.
Well, here's a pro tip for the technology that's today. Like, AI is like freaking awesome. So, what I've done, even in the Macron case, all the files, I have one master PDF file that I keep cramming everything into, and then I upload it to AI, and then I ask AI a question: how many times did this person's name come out? And it scans all, and in a second, it's scanning, hundreds of records, and tells me, okay, hey, this person comes up here, comes up here, comes up here. And had I had that kind of power back when I was a detective, I can only imagine the amount of efficiency that is. It's sort of cool to be able to throw everything into an AI program and say, hey, what happened with this, what happened with that. And then, so for the longest time, until I made my list of a person's name in this case, there's so many names in this case, I was like constantly going back to my AI program. Who is this? Who's this person?
Yeah.
And, so pro tip, if you get back into it, you might want to look at it.
I still have all this stuff. I have a podcast set myself too. I thought I was going to do something a little bit different with my wife, do a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see. Who knows, But they both were interested, though. I did reach out to both of them. Ricky's technically back in town now, but I got back like really, really late, like early this morning, I guess. So he's like, there's no way I'm going to make it to that. But so I might get Ricky. Dan, it's hard to say. He sounded interested. He's a little bit farther away, so a little harder to get him here, Akron area. But so it's like a 45-minute.
If they're interested, what I would like to do, again, my philosophy as a homicide detective is to keep everything. You got to keep the pressure in. You got to keep everything buzzing. You got to keep the information out. That's when people. And after this amount of time, somebody is going to talk. Somebody is going to say, "Hey, it's been this amount of years. I don't care anymore. Hey, I saw this. I saw that." And that's what I'm hoping for. So, what you need to do with your band? Let's get everybody. We'll advertise it for a specific date. We'll go live with you and the band. And people hopefully will call in with questions or whatever. And I think that would be an awesome thing if we can get your band back for that. But
okay, we can try.
All right.
I can't guarantee, like I said, they're their own. I try to rope them in on stuff, but sometimes I don't have that power. So I'll do my best to do that. So.
All right. Is there anything else that you think we're missing or at this point, or
I don't think
it's a good overview?
I think so, yeah. I think we covered a lot of it, right?
Folks, I think that'll do it with the Darren interview, again from the Invisible Ships podcast. We do have, again, a lot of interest into the round table or panel interview. Thinking about doing that live so people can actually ask questions. So please stay tuned relative to future announcements for that. I think that's really where I want to go next. I actually do have a meeting coming up later today with the Lafayette Township administration. So I'll be hurrying off to that and honestly trying to skip a little bit of my editing here to make certain that I can get down there in time. I appreciate it, folks. Make sure if you haven't watched the other episodes in this series, please do so. And also, if you haven't checked out the Kristen Olsen or Don Pasella cases, feel free to do that as well. Thanks.